Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to the Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Today, our guest is Matt. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Qasim. I really appreciate you having me on. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So, Matt, can you let us know where you live and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm located in the Chicago suburbs, and I'm the founder of a nonprofit apparel company, Cherry Willow Apparel. We were created to raise funds and awareness for people experiencing homelessness and are all about wearable advocacy and trying to help provide education and encourage empathy for the individuals experiencing homelessness rather than blaming them or otherizing of the people in that situation.
Well, awesome. Can you let us know, what is the main idea of your business? What you are doing in it?
Yeah, so the goal is to create more collaboration and efficiencies in nonprofits. So on the apparel side of things, we partner with nonprofits, for-profits, and have a co-branded apparel solution. I'm actually wearing one of our shirts today from one of our partners. And essentially what we do is we go in and we add apparel as a revenue stream for that organization. So if it's a nonprofit partner, it's an additional source of fundraising. If it's a business, they get an additional revenue stream to fund their business. But we only work with organizations that are aligned with our social impact mission. And so that's a really good way to get some additional funds in for the business, allow for people to support your organization. And then it's also a really great way to market your organization. The best way to have more awareness in the community is people that are supporting you, representing your organization out in public. It creates the opportunities for in-person conversation and hopefully connects you with a new pool of potential donors, potential volunteers, or maybe even like some business or corporate sponsorships.
Makes sense. So in this whole scenario, what is your main responsibility? What are your core responsibilities? Because I know you may have a lot of responsibilities, but what are the core responsibilities?
Yeah, so for me, I run the team. We have around 7 or 8 team members right now. So what I do is I help facilitate partnerships. I help to guide the partnerships that we're bringing in and make sure that they are staying happy, that we're setting the right expectations about, how the partnerships move. And then also just making sure that the organizations we're partnering with are aligned with the long-term vision of what we're building. I've also been developing our retail line and I'm working on our go-to-market strategy for retailers and wholesalers, and then coordinate with our graphic artist and design team to make sure that the partner's vision for their shirts really comes to life in the designs that we put together for them. Outside of that, I am currently training for a bike ride that I'm doing from Sacramento to San Diego. That ride starts on July 12th, and I'm doing that to raise funds and awareness for people experiencing homelessness. That route allows me to stop in 7 of the 14 cities with the highest number of people experiencing homelessness in the country. And so I'll be meeting people that are experiencing homelessness, documenting their stories along the way, as well as documenting the stories of some of the great nonprofit partners that we have out in California who are working towards solutions to end homelessness.
Obviously, you cannot do all these things alone. And in this case, you must need someone to help you. And you need a circle, you need your PR, you need a network. So why will someone help you out in this case? So this why needs some awareness. If they are aware why we should help Matt, then they will join you. Otherwise, they are not going to help you out in this case. So are you doing anything to spread this awareness, this education?
Yeah, so I share daily videos on my social media accounts where I provide just general facts about homelessness. And anytime that I, go on a platform or have an opportunity to speak about it, there are a few different data points that I'll highlight just to make sure that people have an actual understanding of what the experience is for the people that are out there. And so the one that I always bring up is a big misconception that most people that are homeless don't work. I think when you look at what the general population thinks about it, they're like, oh, they just need to get a job. Whereas in reality, 40 to 60% of people that are experiencing homelessness do have jobs and are working. And so it's not really an issue of them not being able to work or not providing and operating in society. It's really more of a function of a lack of affordable housing, of wages not keeping up with the cost of living, of some of the other medical systems that have failed them, that have let them into homelessness. just because of medical debt. So there's a lot of other factors that really could be impacted for anyone. And that's the goal, is to kind of change the narrative, shift it away from blaming of these individuals and rather focus on the systemic changes that's needed to help address and alleviate the situation.
And in this case, what are the main elements that have much impact on these type of problems?
Yeah, so I mean, really, like from an awareness standpoint, I think most people otherize the individuals that are experiencing homelessness. So, we do that for a few different reasons. Like if you look at the psychology of it, when you come across somebody that's experiencing homelessness, it's a very challenging, like internal feeling. Like here's this person that maybe, you want to help, but you don't feel like you can help. And so, especially with a problem as large as homelessness, it's easy to feel like what you're doing doesn't make a difference. And then so in order not to dwell on it, we kind of put it out of our minds, or the people that are impacted, where we don't think about them the same way we would think about like our neighbor or our friend. And so that's the goal of my work, is to really encourage people to stop and act differently the next time they encounter someone who's experiencing homelessness. Just introduce yourself, ask their name. People that are experiencing homelessness often are referred to as like, hey, you, that they don't hear their name. And so kind of humanizing these people, encouraging empathy rather than judgment, is a lot of the narrative change work that I try to do.
Well, that's beautiful. Awesome. So as you said, like you are posting the awareness on your social media, and obviously you must have some pages as well where you are already spreading the awareness. But on the other hand, are you doing any sort of marketing as well? Any sort of campaigns on social media or maybe the offline? So how you're handling it?
Yeah. So through Cherry Willow Apparel's social media accounts, that's where we have a lot of our partnerships marketing. And so that's really been our strategy for growth right now, especially in the early stages as a nonprofit. We need to be cognizant about where we're investing. And so the partnership model allows us to go in, provide value to a nonprofit or provide value to a for-profit business, while also helping us get exposure to, people and supporters of those entities. So it kind of gives us both some access to people that are now becoming aware of Cherry Willow and our work, and they can support us, while also, being there, supporting our partners. We handle all of the logistics about fulfillment. So anything along with the apparel side, make it really easy for our partners to sign up and start working with us. And anything that then we drive in for them is just a value add. So we're not asking for anything other than, some support in marketing the collaboration. And that's really what we're doing right now in terms of paid marketing. As early stage entrepreneur startup, want to make sure that we have all of our processes in place before we really turn on the paid marketing faucet. And so that's really, the Pedal for Progress ride will be an instrument of that. We're creating a couple of different documentaries about that ride. And so once we have those more in production, that's when we're really going to start to heavily market, start to drive traffic to that content that we're creating. And then ultimately trying to get people to, support us via the merchandise or through donations.
Well, that makes sense. Completely makes sense. So obviously in this journey, I believe there are a lot of challenges as well. And I believe you might have faced many challenges till now. And every entrepreneur faces a lot of challenges, and this is part of the game. So can you share one challenge with us, maybe that you are facing, or maybe that you have ever faced and you were able to cope up with it?
Yeah, I think the most challenging thing in the nonprofit world is encouraging like collaboration. So when you come in contact with a lot of organizations that have been operating one way for a long time, they can be very entrenched. And so like bringing a new idea, something that's different, change is very difficult for a lot of people. And so being able to express like why it's worth it to change, why it's worth it to make that investment. And then that's, again, how we've sort of evolved to overcome that challenge, was by reducing the burden up front on our partners, so that we take on all of the responsibility of the design, the fulfillment, everything that goes along with producing apparel, and kind of lowering those barriers for people to partner with us. And similarly, what we're working on is lowering the barriers for people who are experiencing homelessness to get access to the support systems that exist. So like working through that collaboration, we're working on centralizing a network of all of these different nonprofits, so that anybody that comes into contact with anyone in the Cherry Willow network, if they can't facilitate services directly for that individual, that we have AI that can automate like, hey, this is an organization that can serve them, and get them immediately in contact with someone who's there to help. And that's something that, again, we're just trying to reduce the barriers for people experiencing homelessness, since they already have so many different challenges, to actually enable them and empower them to get the help and support that they need to ultimately exit homelessness.
Yeah, completely makes sense. In fact, people are always change resistant. Not always change resistant, but there are a lot of people who are change resistant, and because of their change resistant, because of uncertainty, because of the fear of unknown. So do you have some clear roadmaps in your hands that can be presented to them, and so that they can become partner more easily? Have you ever worked on these sort of things, like to clear out the fear of unknown?
Yeah, absolutely. So with our partner process, we make it as easy as possible. So it really just comes, the initial conversation is about like getting agreement on the idea that they would like to be in the apparel business. They would like to have some merchandise that promotes their mission, their vision. Then we kind of work on the design stage and then agree to cross promote that on social media. So we just have a couple of different standardized agreements that we send over, make sure that everyone's aligned, and then set up timelines for when we're going to get the artwork back, when we get it up on our website, and how we market it once it's there. So making that process as easy as possible on our partners, where really all they need to do is provide the strategic and creative direction for the design. And then my design team, works with them to be able to make their vision come to life. And so that's really the model that we've been able to replicate. And we've brought in like 20 or 30 partners within the last couple of months. So we've really started to get that model down.
Awesome. So what is your long-term vision for this company?
So on the apparel side, we're working towards getting to a place where we're able to manufacture everything here in the States. The goal there would be to pay people that are experiencing homelessness or that have experienced homelessness a wage tied to cost of living, and so that they can be involved in creating the designs and building something that is a living model of what if other organizations operated in this way. That's another way that we could end homelessness. So the goal is to have, our wearable advocacy, the Cherry Willow brand, stand for unconditional love. And then I also have a technology company, and ultimately would be moving into real estate, as there is no end to homelessness without more access to affordable housing. And so those are a few of the different facets. Apparel was really phase one. And, from there, we're moving into the technology, which we're about 30 days away from having an MVP for focused on that empowerment. So that network that I spoke about. And then after that, we kind of move more into the real estate, working with municipalities, helping to make sure that there is access to affordable housing in those communities, and working to be able to facilitate that through direct donations and getting the people who need housing into that housing.
Makes sense. So what is the very next thing? Like, what's the next biggest milestone you are going to work on?
Yeah, so the most pressing is the Pedal for Progress ride from Sacramento to San Diego. That's going to be a really large undertaking. It's going to be about 750 to 800 miles that I'm going to be biking. And, I've never done a ride of this length before. But the reasoning behind cycling is, that's the main form of transportation for a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness. I'll also be able to come across a lot of people and just stop and speak with them. Whereas when you're in a car, you're kind of, again, you're isolated, you're in your own bubble, you're in your own world. And so when you're out in the community, whether you're biking or walking, again, the goal is to inspire people to think a little bit differently, act a little bit differently, and show that those small actions do have a big impact over time.
Yeah, indeed. Awesome. Well, what is your success? Like, maybe after some time, maybe after some years, where do you think, like, what will be the point where you will say, okay, this is my success now?
Yeah, so from the apparel side of things, like getting to the point where we are able to manufacture all of our goods here in the States and provide work for people who are experiencing homelessness. To me, growing the brand to that level would be a huge success. And then
is there any
on
number?
The technology side, getting a number where we need to.
Is there any number,
in terms
like
of revenue or in terms of?
Obviously, revenue is an obvious thing. Like, obviously, revenue is part of the game. But other than that, like, do you have any number where you think, like, maybe if I am able to give 100 jobs, this will be my success? So sort of like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, like the main goal would be, the first goal is the first person that we're able to help end homelessness for. So like that's a huge milestone. And then can we replicate that and get to 100 people that we've helped end homelessness? And so with each individual that we connect with through the apparel or through a donation, it's hard to kind of track the impact that they have when they're changing their mindset. But that's a lot of the work, is like, how many people can we reach through social that are seeing these channels? So one of the goals for the Pedal for Progress ride is like getting in contact with 50,000 new people throughout the course of the ride. So coming across our social media, some of the different documentary posts, that's a target number that we have in place. We're looking to raise $75,000 by ride end, from a direct donation standpoint. And so that's like the target threshold. With that, we'll be able to support, 750 people experiencing homelessness directly. So that's a huge threshold for us with what we're trying to raise. And then from there, as we continue to grow and build, we work on getting more new partners on. So the next milestone there is like to get our 50th partner. But those are kind of like the most pressing milestones that we're working towards right now.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, Matt, that's awesome. So can you please give us the biggest piece of advice for our viewers? Our viewers are mostly entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think really when you look at, entrepreneurship, it's very easy to overthink and like, oh, do I have the perfect plan? Am I ready? And really what I would suggest is just, obviously you want to put a lot of thought into what you're doing, but ask yourself, like, would you be willing to work on this for years without getting paid from it? If you're passionate enough to do this project and you're like, I would be doing this even if I didn't get any money from it, that's going to be something that you're going to be successful at. And then money will come over time, but you have to be willing to put in that effort. And then I would say, like, if once you've asked yourself that question, just start now, focus on the next step, take whatever action you can today to work towards that long-term goal. I think too many times we get caught up in overanalyzing, overplanning, overthinking, and we're not taking enough action. So I would say once you feel good about what you're doing, you have a plan, it's going to change. It doesn't matter how perfect the plan is. Once you're in it, it's going to get messy. There's going to be things that come up that you didn't anticipate or aren't able to anticipate. So just really starting and then being persistent. And once you're able to do that consistently, then there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
Thanks for the beautiful advice. So Matt, how can the listeners connect with you and learn more about your business? Can you please share your website or the social media handles or wherever you are reachable?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is cherrywillowapparel.com. If you Google Cherry Willow or Cherry Willow Apparel, it should be the first thing that pops up. Then I share a lot on LinkedIn, typically daily posts. It's just Matt Fogarty. My TikTok, YouTube, Instagram is all Fog2Fogue. It's F-O-G, the number 2, F-O-G-E. And that's kind of an homage to like my personal journey from Fog, where I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. I was kind of in this haze and just getting by day to day, to like becoming myself and understanding what I want to do, being very aligned and intentional in my actions. And I'm actually have a book that I'm working on that will come out later this year. It's Ego, Death, and Enlightenment is what it's titled. And so you'll be able to find updates there on my social media channels as well.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation and I wish you best of luck because you are doing really good.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on and giving me the opportunity to speak about what I'm doing on your platform. I really enjoyed being on the show.
Thank you. Likewise. Well, Matt, have a good day and we will stay in touch. Bye-bye.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Qasim.